It's a new year, so you know what that means. That means a new season. It's season 4. Intro a little revamped. Microphone a little revamped. Branding a little revamped. We are now officially the Past BT. So welcome all Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and all podcast platforms. Here you're going to get a flavor of sports, music, tech, video games. Once in a while, we'll get an Ass of the Week and a new part that's going to be coming in. It's not mentioned on the season 3. What we do was called Pass the Message. So definitely you want to tune in and get some good content on the Pass with your host, BT. So I'm going to do something a little different. And I'm only doing this because I have done at least 5 takes of trying to get perfect audio and perfect recording for this show. I'm not going to use any tabs. I'm not going to use any information. I'm just going to do a personal podcast update storyline and kind of freestyle a little bit today. The reason that I am freestyling today is because I personally have found that when you are a creator, creators know how to be creative. And I am personally in a position of being creative because I don't want to limit the options to what I'm doing. The last recording, and I'm going to tell y'all this because this is just the life of a podcaster. And I'm probably going to have to do some research and figuring out why it does this or what's going on and see what I can do. But I recorded my episode initially in the program that I'm using now, Adobe Audition. And I'm a person that's all about levels and audio and just making sure everything is solid, stable, whatever. Well, when I was recording, as I looked, I noticed that my information was starting to get my audio content got a little muffled. And it's the joy of using the program that I'm using because you can literally see as you're recording. So I'm okay with it. I'm, fine, cool, whatever. And I see it and it catches me off guard. Excuse me. So I said, so I'm sitting here and then I said, you know what? Let me go to my old school setup, GarageBand. I've used GarageBand before. Maybe it could be just I need to use a different program. Could be, different factors. Didn't look at GarageBand until I realized that I had the timer set. Instead of it being set in minutes, it was set in, I guess, the duration of how far you are with the recording. I didn't pay any attention, but whatever. I'm still trying to record. I'm going to save it as MP3. As long as I can get it up on Spreaker, then who cares? Same thing happens. So I'm trying to do Facebook, or not Facebook Live, but Insta Live, Instagram Live. And I noticed one of my pet peeves, and this is going to be kind of a pass the message, but also something that I'm going to be working very hard on for 2020, is I personally am used to getting my way. There's no fabricated way of putting that. Whenever you're doing something or find yourself involved with something that you love, you have this expectation that it should go the way that you need it to go. And life sometimes is going to say, no. That's not how it's going to go. How it's going to go is like this. And the question is going to become, can you handle it when it goes like this? And that second question is where people get the routine mixed up. Because when it ends up becoming, are you going to be able to handle what I'm bringing to you? There's not really a choice in the matter. You either deal with it or you throw a tantrum. And a lot of times throwing a tantrum isn't going to be beneficial for the sake of what you're working on, because you have to get that thing done. But we mentally find ourselves challenged and battled in wanting like everything to land how we expect it to land, when a lot of times that's just not how the world is going to piece together. And that can become very challenging and very daunting at times, but you learn how to get through it. I don't want to not do sports on the podcast, because now, like I said, I'm going to be doing shows every 2 weeks. And I was sitting here thinking about it because I looked at the title that I initially had, which was CES 2020. And let's face it, CES 2020 is a dope event. They introduce you to all of the new tech, all of the new stuff coming down the pike. And it gives you that perspective or idea of, hey, this might be something that I may look into. Whether we want to realize it or acknowledge it or not. And like I said, I don't have the article in front of me to really paraphrase, but we are going to see a lot of smart home-based devices become the norm of the home. Now, just because they're the norm of the home doesn't mean you have to go out and get them. I did read some articles, or I did get a little bit of information about the foldable phones becoming more of a trend. They're working on, cameras not being as visible on phones, which we kind of know that was coming because people are trying to do everything in their power to get good images, but, are they going about it the right way? And even a friend of mine, he just got like a new technology. His tech has been out for a while, but it was something that I never thought of. But it came to mind. It made me really think about it. He was looking at. He has a dash cam, and personally, I would have never, in my wildest dreams, bought or set money aside to get a dash cam, only because it's not something that I personally would feel that I need. So I'm thinking about those factors and those pieces of the puzzle, and just looking at where we are or where technology is going. And the truth is, it's going to only go upward and outward, but it's also the need or the demand of the client, or the consumer, because not all consumers genuinely need a lot of what's being sold, or a lot of what's being presented out there by a lot of your top tech companies. So you have that factor to look at in hindsight. I'm not going to really bore y'all to death with any of the playoff sports or anything with football, really with basketball. Like I said, we haven't recorded really anything in a while that is going to catch anyone's attention. Excuse me. But, there are a couple things that in the tech world that have happened. And I am going to do a little bit of a music tribute, because I'm not going to lie. In the last 2 or 3 weeks, I personally have not found any music that caught my attention to really be on like, oh my God, I need to really check out this artist, or check out, like, this is an album y'all need to spin. So I've been doing my AirPod escapes. I've been getting my eargasms, getting those moments to occur, but it hasn't been that much listening. And I'll get into that in a moment. I am going to give an ass of the week because it's only fitting. And that's kind of what it is. So this article came out back on the 8th, and everyone may not think this is a big deal, but it actually is a big deal. Twitter will be soon letting you limit who can reply to your tweets and disable replies entirely. Twitter has announced that it will test a new feature that allows users to limit who can reply to a tweet. This comes as Twitter continues to look for ways to reduce the toxicity of its platform and give users more control over the conversations that stem from their tweets. TechCrunch reports that Twitter will soon start testing a new option that gives users 3 choices for reply settings. Anyone can reply. Only accounts a user follows can reply. Only people tagged can reply, or allowing no replies at all. Twitter is referring to this point option as global group panel and statement. The announcement was made at CES 2020. So obviously we are still on CES 2020. And CES 2020 is going to be a big theme because the next story that I have is something that is near and dear to me. And I'm going to do it as a plug on the show. So if you hear this show, just take it for what it is. The Twitter executive, Kayvon Bakebour, stated that the motivation behind this feature is to give users more control over their tweets. Twitter didn't offer, and they give a brief blurb of what he's saying. They didn't offer a specific timeline on these new options, on when these options would roll out, but did note that the initial rollout will be a test. That means that that there's still a chance the feature won't be released to everyone, depending on the reaction and how it works during this testing period. I think it's a great feature that needs to be added, only because a lot of people, when tweets are replied to, you don't want to read everybody's reply, especially when everybody's reply may not even have anything to do with what you said or what was said. And sometimes you can get random folks who will respond to something like, so the Twitter, how can I put this? The Twitter / social media algorithm is someone posted something. That post was retweeted by another person. The other person who sees it goes to the original post and they retweet that original post. The person who posted it the second time happens to be a friend of yours, and you're like, oh, I'm going to reply, or I'm going to inquire or give input or whatever the case may be, when that person might not even want you to even give any feedback or interpret what was said. They just wanted it to be something that they shared, and it was something on their mind, and that's just what it was. And I totally get that. So if you can use this as a way to get a better control or a better handle on the platform, I have no problem with that. I personally have no problem with that. I'm going to go back to sports for a second because I saw this article, and I guess it's one of those I'll believe it when I see it, but it's still kind of interesting that we're here. Duke took a wild loss early on in the season. North Carolina has lost 6 games. Kentucky has lost 3. Kansas, I think, has 1 or 2 losses. Most of your blue blood teams, Louisville hasn't been having the best of years. A lot of your teams that you would expect to kind of be in the talk are struggling this year. Georgetown hasn't had the best of seasons. Right now, I think the number 1 team in the country isn't even undefeated. That's how rough of a season it is. So one of the teams that are undefeated, which I did not even know until I actually looked at a highlight of them, is Auburn. Arakpo, I'm probably mispronouncing his last name. I don't want to say Isaac Okoro because that's not his name, but Okoro, I think, is his name. And he's a freshman, but dude can ball. Like, I was looking at some highlights and I was like, my man got some skills. Like, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I also was glad at what I saw, not just from him, but from the lineup, from the team as a whole. But Auburn is one of those teams that are undefeated. And the other undefeated team that could really make a mark is San Diego State. San Diego State is in the Mountain West Conference. So, that's one of those conferences that doesn't get a lot of love from the Power 5, as you like to call it. But there's still a team that could get So with all of that being said, it's going to be very interesting to watch how a lot of teams play for the next couple games. Like, even with us being in the prime of basketball where it is, we still have yet to see Duke and North Carolina get their 2 matchups out the way. And like, even Roy Williams has had to accept, like, not Duke. North Carolina isn't the North Carolina of old, and it's tough to watch, especially when they're hampered by injuries. Like, I get that, so I'm giving them benefit of the doubt. But in hindsight, it looks bad because when you're looking at a team that's normally used to holding their own and they're not, it's kind of tough to watch. But it's the reality of what we're watching right now because they're still trying to get their pieces in place of trying to make a quote unquote supposed run in March Madness. So we'll see how that all goes. Like I said, it's only right now you're looking at it's January, mid-January. So by the peak point, we'll probably have a different view towards it. But at least right now, it's a rough sight to see or witness. Continuing or sticking with CES, there's one company that I was waiting to do this, and I'm glad they did it. So if you listen to the MagFest podcast last year, we were closing out the show, and a friend of mine who was on the show, Mark Kaze, he was very adamant about playing NBA Hang Time because that was kind of like our rivalry game. Like, hey, let's hop on Hang Time and get it popping. Well, this year when we went to MagFest, Hang Time wasn't there. The only game I remember seeing an NBA Jam spot, but I didn't play that because I wasn't too pressed on it. But on Engadget, there was a presentation of the NBA Jam arcade machine reenacted as a 16-foot arcade cabinet. And it was creative as crap because Arcade 1UP has done arcade machines for a lot of your well-known games. They've done Galaga, they've done Centipede, they've done Mortal Kombat, they've done Street Fighter, they've done Pac-Man. I think the most recent one that I need to double check if they actually did get that gift, was the one that looks like the golf tee game that a lot of people, anyone who knows what I'm talking about, is tee golf or something like that. It's in every bar or every arcade venue that everyone will play just to kind of get their golf game going. But the one game that I personally was waiting for is out, is in the works and is coming. And that is NBA Jam. They're doing an NBA Jam package. Now, why I like this is not only does it include NBA Jam, but you get NBA Jam, you get NBA Jam Tournament Edition, and you get NBA Hang Time. Because these were all part of the Midway Acclaim, Chaos, Conflict, whatever. But CES, as I mentioned, they did a version. They basically took the arcade game and made it into a full size, like human life form type of game. And the buttons were very functioning because if you look at it, if you played NBA Jam, there was mainly 3 buttons: pass, shoot, and turbo. As long as you knew where each button was and how to do each of the options, you pretty much could play NBA Jam. That's how easy it was, or it is, in my opinion. But they showed him playing on the full functioning system, and it was playable for 4 people to play on the game. And it looked just like the original version from 1993. And you look at it, I mean, we're 27 years later? I'm all for it. The game itself was straight out of 1993, and it was surprisingly responsive considering the unwieldy controls. 2 colleagues and I had to jump up and dangle off the edge of the controller in order to hit the start buttons, and some of the caps popped off as we ran across the court, but they easily slid back into place. As far as ridiculous convention floor gimmicks go, this one worked shockingly as advertised. This is the part for me why I like this. Of course, Arcade 1UP isn't in the business of selling house-sized gaming cabinets. The oversized NBA Jam was a hook for the company's actual news, the announcement of its first ever Wi-Fi connected cabinet. It It runs NBA Jam Tournament Edition, and NBA Hang Time, and players will be able to join online games with other cabinets up to 4 at a time. Like Arcade 1-Up's previous releases, the NBA Jam cabinet is 3/4 the size of a traditional machine. It'll cost $3.99 and is expected to be available this year. Slated, there's a possibility we're looking at the holidays. So I'm going to go ahead and put this out on the podcast now. My birthday is in September. Between September and December, if you feel nice and willing to give, you can send money to me through Cash App, $Bright82, and I will put that money towards getting this arcade machine, because I am definitely planning to own one within the next two to 5 years. It's not something that is a high need. It is a personal want, because I genuinely love NBA Jam on so many levels. It has been the true definition of my childhood, and I will just leave it at that. Before we get to Ass of the Week, I want to go ahead and give Mary her flowers. Mary J. Blige, today is Mary J. Blige's birthday. She turned 49 on today. And I was put in a very unique position with music, because anyone that knows me knows I love a lot of artists. And she's one of those artists that I don't put in lists, but she is an artist that by default I listen to or have listened to. And I was thinking about songs that she did that still stick out to me to this day. And the first two songs that came to mind, once I can find them because I'm slow and not prepared, the first two songs that came to mind were Hidden in My Phone and Wi-Fi. The first two songs were, where is it? 7 Days. Anyone who knows 7 Days will tell you they could listen to 7 Days on repeat easily, because it was one of those songs that was an unforgettable, like, original song. It featured George Benson, bass on the guitar, obviously. And the other song was Whole Damn Year, because, okay, so 7 Days was just kind of like the full circle of love, and like how quick a person can be with you and then be apart from you within a 7-day trial time period. And the song was done in the 90s. Let's add that into the equation as well. Whole Damn Year refers to how much time it takes for a person, not just a woman, but a person, to get over their feelings and thoughts of someone or something. And it's not accurate, obviously, because everyone's feelings and timelines will vary. That's a given. I don't want anybody to come in with the mindset, well, I mean, everyone's not the same. We all don't need a year. Some of us need less time. Some need more time. It's none of those factors. It just primarily has to do with the fact of, if you're in the right space at the right point at the right time, and you happen to deal with the right people, then it could be a solid state of affair where that could be someone that could get you into that space of realizing what you went through. And it takes time to really mentally and physically prepare yourself for what is coming or what has happened, especially if you're not open to facing or dealing with it. So that was why Whole Damn Year is one of those favorites that I like. So if you are following me on my personal Twitter, Bright82, I do have the song for Whole Damn Year listed, as well as 7 Whole Days. There are other songs that I like by Mary, but obviously the one with Lil' Kim, like, that's one of those classics. Her and Lil' Kim did a song together. Strength of a Woman was pretty dope. I think that was one she did with Beyonce. It didn't get a lot of attention, but it got its necessary attention. And I'm bringing attention to this because we're getting ready to get, for most of the 90s babies, or the 90s R&B babies, because that would have meant you were born in the 80s, unless there are exceptions, because there are those who were born in the 90s who just love 90s music. We're getting ready. We have already seen Jay-Z and Puff turn 50. Mary J will be 50 next year. I want to say Faith Evans is coming up on, if she has not already reached 50. Let Let me see real quick. Like we're getting ready to hit. Well, yeah, we got time. So Faith is 46. Just think about that. Like think of the artists that we have or have had who have hit like their peak points in music and are still hitting their strides of the music value and our the level of content that we get from that. Just something to think about. All right. So I have a strange but a random ass of the week. And it's not really even an ass of the week. It's just something that caught my attention. Anyone that owns an iPhone can relate to this all too well. Before AirPods were a thing, before Beats were a thing, before most Bluetooth accessories were a thing, when you bought a phone, it came with the default headphones. Now, I'm going to be universal in saying this because Apple had them, Android had them as well. But the ones that Apple had had a stronger standout to them because if you remember correctly, and it's still the case now, the Apple headphones only had a volume rocker, and that was it. There was no microphone. The microphone was there, but there wasn't a physical microphone on the headset itself. You fast forward, and the only reason I think about this is because I remember owning Skull Candy headphones, and I would have to make sure that I bought the right Skull Candy headphones because certain ones would have that 3-button option. And I was still in possession of an Android, and I kept wondering why it didn't work. And that was why. So the more you know. But anyway, whenever you would have the earbuds in your pocket, by nature, they always look jumbled and bundled. So when you took them out your pocket, it just looked like a gook of white cords. They have become a fashion now. It is the company they were put on display at an XOXO festival by the co-founder Andy Baio, and they sell for $40. The story behind the earrings tells a sweet moment when the artists were inspired by a stranger on the subway listening to music on his Tangled headphones. On the item listing, the duo describes the creation as chaotic spiritual headphone earrings, which is a fair way to describe them. And you can actually look at the headphones and you actually see them as earrings hanging with the cord perfectly bundled and corded together. And what makes it so bad is like they even got a picture of showing like a guy with a pair of those headphones that look bundled up like that. Because the worst thing you had to do was when you got them out of the bag, your natural habit is I gotta uncoil them. That's why whether people can love and hate AirPods all they want to, the second gen, first gen, even the Power Beats. Like I personally, if I knew it and realized the difference in the transition, I would have personally gotten the Power Beats Pro wireless headphones over the AirPods. The reason is small, but it's big to me because it wouldn't have had noise canceling, but I would have at least gotten the better sound quality or the better listening quality, in my opinion. Because you can actually play AirPods are the same way. You can play one, you can have one in your ear and still work out fine. But it's just that preference or that way of listening to music that I valued more. Along with these beautiful chaos earrings, Beef's World also sells mini magic wand earrings if you're into bold fashion statements. Headphones as earrings is a concept that's been roughly explored in various ways. There are different variations on Etsy, real Bluetooth headphones that also doubles as earrings, and one guy who even uses his gouge piercings as AirPod holders. And they just talk about a little bit more regarding that. So I thought that was funny. Like I said, it's not really an ass of the week. It was just an interesting 2% find of like something that was witnessed. So yeah, that's all I have for the ass of the week, but really not an ass of the week in hindsight. The message that I'm going to pass along is very simple. And I guess the way this recording is set up is going to be tied into this. Never stop. And it's one of those things that I'm beginning to realize, especially with how if this is going to be the staple of how podcasts could possibly go for 2020, we going to work it out, because I easily could have stopped and just not did the recording. But instead, and I feel bad because Instagram, I normally like to share it and show it on Instagram Live, but can't do it. And I don't want to take any chances, and I don't want the audio to get jacked up or whatever the case may be, because it could be a radio frequency. It could be different varying factors. So I don't want to use any of those things or components as a possible blockage from not getting content to you all. So don't stop. If you don't stop, let alone don't give up. If you feel like you're about to give up, don't. You have a purpose. You have something that you're meant to work on it. And don't let yourself feel bombarded if it doesn't go the way you want it to go. Because there's going to be times that it's not going to work out the way you intended to be, and it's going to work on its own plan, and that's just what it is. And that's really all I have to say. So with that being said, this is going to close out episode 273. 274, as I mentioned, since we are doing these twice a week, or once every 2 weeks, I will get by the next episode, we should have our Super Bowl contenders, and we'll talk about that along with the possibility, because we're going to be getting towards the NBA. So we're going to talk about the All-Star breakdown with players who are going to be in the All-Star game, the reserves, and all that stuff. So that is all I have. I'm going to be pushing to definitely get more tech involved. If there are stories that you would prefer to hear on the show, passpodcastbt@gmail.com. Send me some links. That way I can kind of get more exposure to what you all listen to or talk about, and I can bring that to surface. And it also could be something that I might learn about. For instance, a friend of mine, May, was telling me about Pokemon Direct, which I didn't even see Pokemon Direct, and it sucks because I was never a person who owned Pokemon. Fun fact. So it's tough when you're still trying to learn your tech placement and not get too stuck in what you did or didn't have growing up. So that's all I have. As always, this is the Past signing out, and I'm your host, BT. Y'all have a good one. Really appreciate all the support, all the listens, all the likes, all the effort that goes into anyone who has provided any form of content for the past. We're signing out now, but you definitely don't want to miss what's in store for the upcoming episode. If you are interested in getting more information or becoming a podcaster, you can check out Spreaker.com. And the microphone that you are hearing me use is the Blue Yeti X. I had been using a Yeti for a while. I went back to the Samsung Meteor, but now I'm using the Blue Yeti X, which is everything. Trust me. All social medias, the Pass BT. That's THE, Pass, as in pass the ball. BT is my initials. And finally, if you are a creator and you want to support a fellow creator, subscribe, like, and comment on the Pass. Until next time, this is your host, BT, signing out.